I am Paola Benitez. I study in Catholic University, School Nursing St. Vincent of Paul. I talk about genetic diversity and protect the efficacy of the RTS AS01 malaria vaccine. Definition: the RTS AS01 vaccine targets the circumpozoid protein of Plasmodium falciparum and has partial protective efficacy against clinical and severe malaria disease in infants and children.
Drug manufacturer GlaxoSmithKline is seeking approval for the world's first malaria vaccine after trials in Africa showed it had cut the number of cases in children. Malaria is responsible for the deaths of approximately 600,000 children in sub-Saharan Africa each year. The company used proteins from the malaria parasite Plasmodium falciparum and the hepatitis B virus to manufacture the vaccine, known as RTS. During trials in 7 countries, the vaccine was administered to 15,000 children aged from 6 weeks to 17 months via a course of 3 injections. Results showed that in children vaccinated between the age of 6 to 12 weeks, the number of clinical cases of malaria was reduced by 27% over a period of 18 months, while for those vaccinated between 5 to 17 months, the number of cases was reduced by 46% over the same period. GlaxoSmithKline, which has been working on the vaccine for 3 decades, said, based on the results, it would submit a regulatory application to the European Medicines Agency, EMA.
Application in medicine. The 1-year cumulative vaccine efficacy was 50.3% against clinical malaria, in which parasites matched the vaccine in the entry circumpozoid protein C-terminal, as compared with 33.4% against mistage malaria. The vaccine efficacy based of the hazard ratio was 62.7% against matched infections versus 54.2% against mistage infections in the group of infants 6 to 12 weeks of age. There was no evidence of differential allele-specific vaccine efficacy.
In all conflicts that occurred in tropical regions in the 20th century, malaria was responsible for a greater loss of military manpower than enemy fire. Last month, new findings revealed that naval researchers are getting closer to ensuring that won't be the case in the 21st century. Sergeant Adam Ross has more.
One of the most persistent threats to military readiness continues to be malaria, but the fight against the virus may soon be revolutionized by the work being done by researchers at the Naval Medical Research Center in Silver Spring, Maryland.
We were able to show that in a small sample, we could achieve 100% efficacy with this vaccine. And what that means is that in these subjects who received a full course of the vaccine, we actually challenged them with malaria infection by exposing them to mosquitoes infected with malaria. And to our great delight, none of the subjects in that group developed malaria.
The results of that test, done in conjunction with the medical work of private industry, represent the biggest step toward a true malaria vaccine.
To get any drug or vaccine licensed through the FDA requires a series of detailed and carefully conducted research studies. So there are several more studies that we're going to have to do. But we're very hopeful and are setting an ambitious timeline of 3 to 5 years to achieve licensure.
The vaccine uses a whole organism approach, where a weakened version of the parasite is introduced to the body. This type of vaccine has had success against other diseases.
By using this whole organism approach where we're giving the parasite, we're going back to an approach that has been used since very early in the beginning of vaccinology. In fact, if you think about Edward Jenner giving his smallpox vaccine, what he did is he gave the whole organism. So we're doing the same thing. We're giving a weakened version of the whole organism, and when the body sees that, it mounts an immune response.
The successful test is the latest development from more than 40 years of malaria research by the Department of Defense, much of it done by the Naval Medical Research Center.
Of course, it's also of great benefit that this particular product will help protect the health of children and individuals around the world.
The next test of the vaccine could start as early as January 2014. Army Sergeant Adam Ross, TBC News.
Pros and cons. We use polymerase chain reaction basic next generation sequencing of DNA extracted from samples from 3985 participants to survey circumprotozoid protein polymorphisms. We evaluate the effect that polymorphic positions and plotypic regions within the circumprotozoid protein had on vaccine efficacy against first episodes of clinical malaria within 1 year after vaccination.
The new anti-malaria drug called Mosquirix is 30 years in the making. It's the first ever vaccine against malaria, a disease that infects some 200 million people each year. An estimated 600,000 people died of the disease in 2013, and experts say every minute it claims the life of one more child. Andrew Whitty is CEO of the drug's co-manufacturer, GlaxoSmithKline.
This is the world's first vaccine against any parasite. It's not just the world's first vaccine against malaria. It's never been done before, and as recently as 10 years ago, well-informed scientific opinion would say that this was an impossible mission.
The vast majority of malaria's victims are babies in sub-Saharan Africa. Aid workers like Simon Wright, who heads Save the Children, are cautiously optimistic.
Starting to show an effect for the first time. A lot of questions about it though. How much is it going to cost? How's it going to be delivered? How long will it last?
But no one is saying the drug, also known as RTS, is going to wipe out this mosquito-borne disease. Expectations were already dampened after trial data showed it only provided protection about 25 to 50% of the time. Professor Brian Greenwood of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine says the development of a vaccine has been a huge challenge.
The malaria parasite is difficult, but it has about 5,000 genes, it makes lots of different proteins, it's lived with us for a long time and learned how to evade the immune system that naturally happens when you get an infection.
The vaccine will cost about $20 for a full round of immunization. It still faces regulatory and funding hurdles before it's rolled out in Africa, so it could be 2017 before the potentially life-saving vaccine is administered to those who need it the most.
Conclusion. Disease results suggest that among children 5 to 17 months of age, the RTS vaccine has greater activity against malaria parasites with the matched circumprotozoid protein allele that against mid-stage malaria. The overall vaccine efficacy in this age category will depend on the proportion of matched alleles in the local parasitic population.